Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We're playing Forbidden Lands. Tonight, we are picking up right where we left off. We are in the tavern of the All-Seeing Tater. This is a tavern underneath the town of Terran, and Mirren and Zaldrin have had a little bit of fun carousing, while Gunk and Bacho were figuring out how to deal with a parasite in the proprietress's mother. But we're going to jump back a little bit. Mirren, while you were sitting at the table drinking, you're trying to put these morose thoughts behind you. You're not quite successful. You can't help but think about death and dying. Della was telling you about how there's a shadow on your shoulder. How does Mirren imagine that she will die or would like to die?
Mirren, she knows that her death, be it through violence and choking on her own blood or sort of a gnawing hunger that leaves protruding ribs, it doesn't really matter. Her true death will be when she can no longer run away and when Isla catches up with her, when she takes her in her arms and embraces her kind of like a riptide pulling down a swimmer. Grief and water, hand in hand, pulling her under to some old forgotten place. That will be her true death. She wonders which of her parents, honestly, after hearing the innkeeper, which of her parents fell first and which broke the laws and lores of Or's Rest and ran, kind of like what she did. She knows. She doesn't really remember their faces anymore, her parents, but her grandparents and their stories when her parents never returned are seared into her very being. An impossible tale and a sworn oath all in one to the old gods. When I die, I will hear a kind of knocking, the sound only created when a fist is banging on the inside of a pine coffin, and it will be inescapable for me. That is what she knows.
I need to write that down. Next time you roll poorly, I got to play a knocking sound. Excellent. All right, we're jumping forward again a few minutes. So the four of you are now in Mildreth, Della's mother. You're in Mildreth's bedroom, and Della has gone into a strange fit, and she started prophesizing. I don't know the right word for that. Gunk gave her a sleeping potion, and that has fully taken effect now. So she's no longer spouting the same verse over and over, but she is still unconscious on the floor. Mildreth, you have restrained and basically tied to her bed. And the chef of the tavern, Beric, has just opened the door, carrying a bundle of knives because Zaldrin said you needed them to help Mildreth, and sees this scene. What's going on here? How are you responding?
It's his mother-in-law, right? Like, that's the...
He's
right?
not married to Della.
Oh, he's not married?
He just
okay.
works for her.
All right, okay, sorry. I was going to make a mother-in-law joke, but never mind. It is... everything is fine. I know this isn't what it looks like. I don't know what this looks like. The point is...
I don't know what this looks like either.
Mildred is very, very ill. She has a parasite inside of her. And
I know that she bit me. She has a parasite inside her?
Well,
Alcohol
we
will make
chopped it in half and tore it out, but there may be more.
Right, exactly. And
That's why you wanted the knives? You need to cut it out?
Yes. We think Bacho might have gotten it all, but you never know. There could be others inside.
What happened to Della?
She was panicking, so I gave her some medication. She'll be fine. Just to calm her down.
Oh no. Okay, well this is a mess.
It is.
Mildreth, she's restrained, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, I was trying to say that in character.
Oh, my bad.
No worries.
Yes.
Okay. you can't perform any surgery on her until Della comes back. I cannot allow that.
That I understand what you're saying. That is fine. I'm kind of more curious right now about this bite that you suffered. She bit you. How long ago?
Oh, it's nothing. It's a scratch. It's no big
Alright,
deal.
could
Barely
I-
pierced
could-
the skin.
Could I take a look at it, please?
Do you need to? Yeah, I suppose. And he starts unwrapping the bandage. And it's like right on his wrist, right where his hand joins his arm. And there are several small bite marks that are very circular in nature, not really like a human jaw.
Yes. When she bit you, was there anything odd that you noticed about her mouth when it happened, or anything like that, or is it? Because if you see here,
Well, it hurt like hell.
All right, I think you're going to want to sit down here. Go ahead. Is Aldrin here?
Okay, and he just kind of like moves and leans against a table that's against the wall. And yes, all
So-
four of you are here.
Aldrin,
Do you need my assistance?
Could you bring a chair for our friend, please?
Yes, of course.
I want him to get the seat. And then, oh man, I kind of want. I'm gonna kind of like do the classic cover my mouth and just sort of talk into Bacho's ear. We should probably restrain him too. I think I see the similar bite marks.
Bacho will put his big clawed hands on his shoulders and like, listen, friend, you've probably been infected, so we're going to ensure that you're restrained, and we're going to try to figure out how to get this parasite out of you before it does to you what it did to Mildred.
Well, no one's restraining me, okay? I want to help Mildred, but this is ridiculous. You're not.
We saw these
Restraining me?
things kill an entire village.
No, hold up the slashed head that Bacho, because he slashed it in half.
Slashed and squished because someone stepped on it as well.
Okay.
But you can like peel it off the floor
like,
and it's
do you see
flattened and
this?
juicy.
Do you want this
What?
inside
Is
of
that a
you?
snake?
No, it is not
No,
a
of
snake.
course not.
It is a worm-like parasite that was inside of Mildred here, and is like
Gunk or Bacho, give me a manipulation with +1 for the other one. Helping.
Oh,
And
dude.
at
That's
this
on
point,
you.
Aldrin didn't have long to go to grab a chair and come back. So she's
Yeah, you went out to
Okay,
the
sure,
tavern.
yeah.
You grabbed a chair or a stool from one of the nearby tables. Wolford is still singing out there, completely oblivious to any sort of danger or tension that you guys are feeling. And he's actually drawn a bit of a crowd. The
Man.
tavern itself was mostly empty. It's filled up a little bit, and the people are tending to sit closer to Wolford as well. But you grab the chair, you bring it back in. Gunk, how'd you do?
Well, good news and bad news. First round, not so great. Pushed it, got 3 successes, but also took a point of empathy damage. So, you know,
Okay, that's not too
little
bad.
column A, little column B.
3 successes.
3 successes.
Okay, listen, I understand this is dangerous. I definitely don't want a parasite. That's awful. What if I isolate myself? I'll stay here in the room with Mildred. I won't come out. That's got to be a fair compromise.
These things take over your mind and your body and puppet you around, ensuring that you go elsewhere and infect others, just like Mildred bit you. You don't think she wanted to bite you, do you?
But Mildred has been sick for days. It was the first time she bit me. She's gotten progressively worse. If I'm sick, it's going to take time.
You're not sick. You have a parasite in you that we can remove so you don't get sick at all.
Are you sure I have the parasite? What if she just bit me and I don't
Listen.
have it?
Listen, friend. Do you see this mark?
And I'm going to hold his hand up.
Do you see the tiny little teeth marks? Do you see this? That was not Mildred's mouth who bit into your flesh. It was the creature that was nested within her throat. And it came out while she was biting you, and it bit you in the skin. Listen, look.
Okay,
And I will
I
show him
understand.
the
This is serious.
I
But
will show him the squish thing too. Be like,
Do you
with
see them?
Della unconscious, someone has to run the tavern. Who's going to run the tavern?
I have an idea.
Mirren's got it.
You need alcohol. If you make your blood alcohol, you can make it inhospitable.
Okay. I can definitely use a drink anyways. He takes the pint from you and just starts
But
chugging.
Bacho reaches up and starts scratching his ear, thinking to himself, I don't think this is how it works, but okay.
Right. I mean, it's
All
not,
of the
I don't think it's going
alcohol.
to hurt.
So we can fast forward a little bit. Burick is definitely concerned about running the tavern. So if with the 3 manipulation, 3 successes, you're definitely able to convince him to go your way. So as long as one of you can promise to run the tavern, try to keep things in order. You don't have to cook, but you can surveil. He'll go along with it, and he'll agree to be somewhat restrained in the room. Like you can bind his hands, but he's not going to let you like tie him to a bed or anything like that.
I can serve alcohol. It's not that difficult to do. I can
can
handle
help.
it.
Zaldrin is a horse princess, so she needs help.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I lack in customer service, you will
Yes.
excel.
We make people happy with lots of alcohol.
Speaking
So
of, Wolford is just
yeah,
out
go ahead.
there, center of attention. So if we were looking for a diversion, he's successful.
right. He can help. He knows. Yeah, he can help. You've
Hopefully
got
they're
this.
dropping some coin into his hat there. Bacho leans over to Gunk and he's like, Gunk, if these humans won't cooperate, I mean, we can always just resupply and leave this town behind. If the whole human population wants to drop off the face of the earth, I don't really care.
Right. I'm not particularly too enamored with them either. I just assume at some point they will possibly go to the Skraeling. I've already seen one.
Yeah.
So
You're right. They just frustrate me with their lack of faith in the pack.
always asking wasteful questions. Anyhow,
I should have just knocked him out, but you're right.
still good. I think I have more of the sleeping potion left as well.
So Gunk, I know you were concerned about the cats as well. You want to try
they're
and
filled
round
with
them
horrible
up.
parasites and they're about to infect the whole city. That's what's happening.
There is a good chance that none of them have left the tavern. People are coming and going from the front door, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've let one out. So the way I'd like to handle this, first to start with, Zaldrin, I know you've been drinking with Mirren, but you are, to be polite, a heavier body weight, so the alcohol won't hit you as hard. Do you think
correct.
you're drunk right now?
I would not imagine that there was enough
No?
time for
You could have had
Zaldrin
several
to become
ales.
intoxicated. I did. It does not mean that I am drunk.
Okay.
I can roll if you would like me to.
No, it's fair. This is entirely your judgment call. Jeff, I did not call her fat. I was trying to be polite.
You definitely, I heard it. We do have a recording of this. And you basically just
I
called
actually
her
think
fat.
in one of the first sessions there was a combination of like old and large that kind of came all at the same time.
And
It was
Wilfred
great.
said your breath smelled too. I'm sorry I'm picking on you so much. I don't know why it all goes to you. So the way I'd like to
Totally
handle
fine.
this, Jeff, you were there when all the cats came out. Bacho, you were there too. But Jeff, I'd like you to roll a lore check to try and remember exactly how many cats and what they looked like. And the rest of you, I want you to roll movement checks to try and herd these cats. And for each success from the 4 of you, you will successfully herd a cat. Mirren, you are drunk. So I'm going to give you a +1 because you don't care if the cats scratch you.
+1. Awesome.
All right.
Zeldrin, I was going to give you the +1 too, but you said
Does
you were
me
drunk.
having extra successes help as well? Or is it just a number?
Yes. So
Okay.
all 4 of you, the amount of successes is going to count. And if you get enough successes, Jeff, you'll remember that there were only 6 or so cats that came out of the door. 7 with the one she was holding.
I'm gonna push it. I didn't get any successes.
I will also push because I also did not get any successes.
All right, I got 1 success and took 2 points of agility damage, so I'm not rolling rocks here. I got
1 success and 1 point of agility damage.
Wow, no
Oh,
points of
wow.
agility damage and 3 successes on my push.
Nice.
3. So that's 5. Jeff, how'd you do?
Also 3 successes, but I did
3
take 1 point of
successes.
wits damage. Yeah.
All right, that's 8 successes. That's more than enough. You get all 7 cats. Gunk, you specifically somehow you were able to recall exactly which cats came out, what they looked like, and you were able to between the four of you herd them back into the room. And the strange thing is, as you guys are almost panicking, going around this tavern, trying to herd these cats, some of them are very angry because they're panicked and they're scratching at you as well, which is how you take a lot of your agility damage. As you're doing this, you have Wofford giving you the soundtrack of the scene, and it's surprisingly positive and pleasant. He's just singing, "Sometimes I wonder what you see in me. Is it someone you're wishing or hoping I'll be? Sometimes I wonder, I can't help myself. Will your love go someplace with somebody else? And I want to tell you, come rain or come shine, that I'll always be your love if you'll always be mine." A very positive, upbeat, hopeful song. Three-Eyed Cat, that was just for you.
Interspersed by the like every time.
Yes,
like,
with the
you snag a
screeching of
cat.
cats, the cursing of you all as you get scratched. But eventually you get them all herded into that room.
I don't think we
with-
want to put them into that room, though. Can we put them into
Okay,
another location, like different room upstairs or someplace else? Just
Could
because
we
if there's
just-
parasites,
Yeah,
in-
absolutely. There are multiple
This
rooms
is my
in this
best
tavern.
friend. You can't
Well-
take it away.
Here's what I'm thinking. There's a cauldron where there was stew before.
Oh no.
Listen, Gunk is a rat person. It is a old evolutionary hatred of cats. So you'd be perfectly fine just to be safe, taking them out.
So this is a good point to emphasize that we have safety rules in place. We have lines and veils, and one of our lines is no pet harm. So we can pretend that
enough.
we're going to harm the cats, but we will not actually harm the cats. I'm going to draw a line there.
Okay.
No, it's my best
I know, I'm
friend.
taking all the fun out.
Best friend. You can't.
Mirren,
No, you
Mirren,
can't.
Mirren, my packmate. It
Yeah.
may have a parasite in it that will turn you into a festering zombie creature that we will then have to kill. So let's just watch it from a distance for a while.
It's so cuddly.
And
And
the one that
Zaldrun
Mirren's
is going
holding
to.
is... Go ahead.
Zaldrun's going to find like a bar rag that, any bar always has bar rags, and she's going to like roll up a bar rag, and she's just going to, because Mirren's fairly drunk, and that's how Mirren's been playing it. And so Zaldrun is just going to, oh, Mirren, isn't Wolford's singing voice just so surprising?
Oh yeah, I
Isn't
know.
that-
It's so good.
Quick change cat to like, Bartow.
And the cat that Mirren's holding is surprisingly docile, but it's also extremely fat. So it's just, maybe it's just lazy. But she's got an arm directly under the top two legs, and there's just a giant belly of a cat underneath there that basically drags along the ground because Mirren's not tall enough to really hold it high enough.
Could be just full of
Ooh.
worms. Evil
It
worms.
very well could be.
Well, now
but
I
yes,
am hugging
you
a
can-
rag.
You can absolutely find another room, most likely Della's room or Beeric's, because they stay in the tavern as well, that you can secure the cats in. You can check them out if you want, or you can just leave them in there. What would you guys like to do?
I think we should check them out. What do you think, Gunk? I mean, if we can make sure that they're not infected, then that's one less way that these things can get out.
He again, Gunk is a rat. Gunk does not like these things.
They might not be infected with this parasite, but they are infected with something, I can guarantee you. But no, we should investigate. We should look at them. I guess I should look at them.
It's going to be an animal handling check. And I'll say that at least one person can help.
Zaldrun.
But between the four of you, it would be a little too difficult to like each inspect a single cat.
I think
So,
Zaldrun would have
if
just
one person
grabbed
helps you, you get a +1.
the last cat from Mirren and kind of walked it over to Gunk. You've been working on this. I can provide assistance. Fat cat.
Fine. Ugh, let me see.
And Gunks doesn't have a lot of empathy left right now, so he's in
We do
a
have audience
ornery man.
D6s by the dozens. So
Burn
if
'em
you
up.
would like some assistance.
My
Okay.
friend is moist now.
All right, here we go. I'll push that. Nothing yet. All right, got one
Did you take-
success. I did.
Did you take +1 for Zaldrin helping?
I did not. Let me roll it again. And push. Still just one.
Okay. One success. You're going through these cats, and some of them are very fat. Others seem a bit more lean and predatory. Those are the ones you don't like the most. But you can't necessarily see that any of them have parasites. They claw and scratch at you when you try to like open their jaws to look inside, but none of them seem to have an eel where their tongue should be or anything like that. You look for the sores that Skull had, the headman of the warren that was wiped out. None of them seem to have those kind of bumps and open sores that Skull had. So you feel fairly confident that these cats don't have them, but that's not a guarantee. It could just be very early stages.
We'll just leave them locked up in here for a few days. See if any of them turn.
You can bring them food and then check on them.
I mean, we can, but
We will
seems
bring
like
them
a waste
food.
of food.
You could be
At
nice
this
to my
point-
friends.
That
Mirren,
one's okay,
Mirren.
but the other ones, ugh.
It's squishy now.
And at this
All
point,
of the
Zaldrin,
parasites inside.
the patrons of this bar are starting to get upset that they have not been served ale in a timely manner.
And so
What
Zaldrin will
skill
go
do you
out.
think you're using to try and work at this bar?
Animal handling? No. What would actually be okay with
Maybe
this?
a move, or I would take sleight of hand. You gotta be deft to handle those
Move.
trays.
Move would be
Move?
way better.
Okay.
I thought it was talking to them and calming them down, which is not going to go very well.
I have a feeling that you're not trying to calm them down. You're just trying to get beers in their hands, and that'll do the same
Just-
thing.
Just move quickly. Eee, that was loud. Sorry. One success.
One success. All right. So these patrons definitely started getting pretty angry. Wofford singing is exciting them, but they also want ale as they enjoy the music. So they are getting a little unruly towards you. But as you start handing out the ales, you're tapping the kegs, you're filling up all the mugs, handing them out. Oh, puppy. You're able to calm them down a bit. You definitely get some of those angry people that are just assholes for no reason. Like, what took so long? But with, classic Zaldrin response of either something very
Just you have it now. And then she'll just walk away.
Exactly. What did you want? You got it. You're able to get them calm. It's annoying, it's stressful, but you're able to work through the night and keep it going. At one point, though, a customer walks into this bar and they're an orc, which this is the first orc you've seen in this entire town. Probably one of the first orcs you've seen in a long time, because most of them stay in Oracoa, the hometown of the orcs. There are a few that traveled like you. It's not uncommon. It's not unheard of. But they tend to stick together in groups. They don't necessarily go to a lot of the settlements. And he comes in and he starts going to a table, and he sees that you're handing out ale, and he starts intently watching you for a while. And you're so busy at this point that you can't really do much about it because you're just trying to keep refilling these mugs, keep handing them out. But at some point, he does come up to you, and this is a giant orc. By the time he reaches you, you've got a strong build. You're muscular. No one would want to mess with you. this guy is like a foot taller than you, at least 50 pounds heavier than you. And he's got the, classic orc shaved head and the pointy ears. As he talks, you see that he's missing a tooth. And he says something that's very strange and kind of catches you off guard. The eagle claws are sharp, but the snake's fang pierces deep. And he just kind of waits for a response, letting that hang there.
Do I know how to respond to this?
You can give me a lore test if you'd like.
All right, that's just 3. I will take an audience. Thank you, audience. I'm going to take some wits damage, but I'll push. Okay, so I took 1 wits damage. So I actually have a willpower for the first time in a very long time. And I got 1 success.
Okay. With that 1 success, basic background on the orcs is that they're a very clannish society. They have families that stick together and they vie for power between each other. There is a very big family. They call themselves the Eagle Clan. And you obviously would have heard of them growing up throughout your life. Whether you came from Oracoa or you were born somewhere else, this is just something that every orc knows. And you would also know that their emblem is the eagle's claw, a talon. Many of them will hunt eagles to actually take their talons and like wear them in their hair or attach them in some way. It's a rite of passage for many warriors. So the eagle's claws are sharp has a very deep meaning to most orcs. The snake's fang pierces deep. That sounds like gibberish to you. You don't know what this means whatsoever.
Friend, it is good to see. Not many of us here or on the roads of late. I must say I didn't quite catch that last line there.
And from the moment you say friend, you can see he kind of like shrinks back. He takes a step back. He's a little bit more on guard. I'm sorry, I must have the wrong person.
If you were looking for another one of ours, I haven't seen one since I've been here, but haven't been here long.
Apologies, I just arrived myself today. I will try a different tavern. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm assuming she's got a couple, pints in her hand, and she'll just kind of sling one his way. I mean, you're here. Want one? Everybody else seems to want one. Can have one.
I am thirsty. The road's been long. Thank you. And he'll take the pint and he'll find a table to sit down at. It's one of the emptier tables further away from Woford. But he'll start staying there the rest of the night. If you'd like to interact with him more, you can. But you are also trying to stay busy serving this tavern. So it's your call. How much would you like to pursue this?
Sort of in passing, because he didn't seem like he really wanted somebody to just chat him up too much, but just while kind of bussing and kind of refills and whatnot, kind of while she passes by his table, she might just say, my group came in from the west. How about you?
Also from the west. My name is Utska. Yours?
Zeldrin.
It is a pleasure. It is warming to see a fellow orc among these small folk.
I am towering over half of my group at all times. They're good people, but it's sometimes good to look someone eye to eye.
If you just arrived today, how did you already find work at a tavern?
We knocked the innkeeper out.
Mirren's just been following Zaldrin along this whole time as Zaldrin's
Yeah.
slinging ale.
Yeah.
Mirren's following along with her own pint.
You're doing
And-
a great job, Zaldrin.
Saldrin's, kind of visage will sort of soften a little bit as she, kind of looks over to Mirren, and then,
I'm very
We have-
tall.
come across a blight of sorts in our travels. Have you also?
A blight. What do you mean?
And she'll kind of lower her voice a little bit. Parasites specifically.
Parasite. No, I've not seen any such thing.
Come across this in multiple locations, and it seems to have found its way here.
Zaldrin, could you give me an insight check? Mirren, when you chimed in,
Yes.
Utska started to scowl almost immediately. And then he, almost exaggeratingly leaned up and over as if he was trying to see you over the table.
I can see you too. Why? Did you like my cat?
No.
It's kitty cat.
Zaldrin, how'd you do?
One success.
One success. Okay. So when you mentioned a blight, you could tell that Utska got very concerned. A look of stress or worry came over his face. But when you mentioned it was a parasite, he almost relaxed a little bit, as if that made things better.
Can assure you it is quite dangerous.
Oh, I'm sure. Parasites are scary.
And she sort of gives him a look and then doesn't really have time to defend her bravery at that. And so she'll just sort of sigh and not cutting off the conversation, but she's gonna, bust a couple tables.
Yeah,
And,
you've got work to do.
Yeah.
Let's cut to Gunk and Bacho. Zaldrin is working in the tavern. Mirren is causing chaos everywhere, bouncing between you and following Zaldrin, I assume, wherever the ale takes her. What are the two of you doing? You have these cats secluded. You have Byrrec, who his hands are loosely bound, secured, and Mildreth is tied to the bed, extremely secure. Della has the sleep poison, which won't wear off anytime soon.
Probably want to move Della back to her room so she's not in the room with the two possibly infected people.
Right. However, she is the one who...
And then he will realize that Beric is in the room.
This way.
And will step out of the room before he says this part.
She is the one whose eyes rolled into the back of her sockets and she spouted that prophecy. So I am not certain that she is not somehow involved. Maybe not infected, but something. She seemed touched as she was able to see Mirren's friend or some such.
The ancestors perhaps were speaking through her.
Maybe
The old pack that has passed into the Shadowlands.
is a warning,
Calling
perhaps.
back as a warning, indeed. She seemed to be concerned about the coming week of night,
Yes.
and that it might
If
bring about an end to this place.
If I can interrupt real quick, Gunk, you are acquainted with magic, to say the least, and you can sense a bit of magic as well. I'm going to bend those rules a little bit. You don't sense any magical artifacts, but since you gave Della the sleep poison and you were around her, you begin to see a recurring theme. Della, as soon as she saw Mirren, said she saw a dark shadow on her shoulder. The name of the tavern is the All-Seeing Tater, and it's got eyes all over the tater, human eyes, as in you have more than two eyes. And then she does this prophecy. There's a very good chance that Della is touched by some sort of magic, whether she's capable of controlling that or not. She's definitely some sort of seer.
She's much like myself, then. She has a bit of the sight, is what I would call it. I have some of these powers as well, but hers might be different. The Earth Mother speaks to me, through me, grants me powers and gifts. Perhaps there is another that is reaching out to her. Perhaps she does not yet know how to harness the information, the powers that the gods are giving her. Curious. Perhaps we should befriend her, make allies with her. She could be useful in the coming troubles.
You're always wise, Gunk. Well, then we should move her someplace safe while she sleeps off this the potion you gave her.
Barrick, does Della have a room within the inn, the tavern?
Yeah, and Byrrec would give you basic directions of where all the rooms are, which ones are guest rooms, which one's Della's room. He would tell you that. And he would also offer all of you 2 rooms to stay in for the night free of charge because you're trying to help. You can see that as he's tied up, he's becoming a little more concerned with the situation. And maybe he's trying to bribe you into thinking that will keep things a little more... what's the word I'm looking for? Passive instead of aggressive. He's definitely having second thoughts now that he's restrained. But he does want what's best for Mildred and Della. So he wants to help you as much as he can.
We should remove her and then return and see if we can get this parasite out of Byrrec before it causes too much harm to him.
So Bacha will lean over and pick up Della. She doesn't weigh that much compared to his strength, and he'll take her to her room and lay her out. Cover her up. Try to do the human things, even though he doesn't understand them.
Absolutely. It's really just one room over, so it's not that far. And you can put her on the bed. You kind of wrap the blanket around her. She's on top of the blanket when you set her down. You pull the blanket from the other side, so it's kind of like a burrito. Like she wouldn't be comfortable, but you don't know how it works. But yeah, you get her all set up, and she is fine in that room.
So,
Bacha
I
obviously.
think... Oh, go ahead.
good.
I was just going to say, and then Bacha would go back to assist Gunk in case there's some kind of reaction by any parasite left in that room.
And I would say once Aldrin sees that you all seem to be kind of winding things down, she will probably, unless it's ridiculously early, try to close the tavern up early. Like kind of when she's done. Like she's had enough trying to be social for the night. And be like, you know what? Everybody
Absolutely.
go home.
Yeah. We'll go with the check you had before, and you're an intimidating persona. So basically you say last call, and your last call for you means that no one gets any more ale. It's not even you come up for the last call. It's like, we're done. So Wolford sings 2 or 3 more songs there. People drain what's left of their dregs, and they start to slowly filter out. Gunk, can you roll me a D3? Sleeping poison has unconsciousness for D6 hours. You said you weren't giving her the full thing
That's
though,
correct.
so let's do D3.
4. I rolled 4.
D3.
So a 2 would be a 2. Sorry.
2. Okay. So we'll say it's been about an hour there. We're going to be fast and loose with our quarter days here tonight, because technically you're in the quarter that you're supposed to be sleeping, but we'll go along with it. Zaldrin, you get most people out. Wolford's a little upset that his set was cut short, but you do see that he gathered quite a bit of coin from these people. So he's a little excited about that.
I believe that all of that attention that you got suggests that your singing is not necessarily pleasant in the orc kinds of singing that we do, but I think in these human ears that they all seem to enjoy it. So good job.
I think that's the closest you've ever come to giving me a compliment.
That might be the closest you've come to doing something to earn a compliment.
He looks a little downtrodden in that. And Zaldrin, you go to start to bar the door to the tavern. And just as you're closing the door, someone comes up and starts pushing against it and knocking on the door at the same time. It's not very forceful, and it's a very light knock. And you hear a soft voice coming from the other side. I'm sorry, it's early. I thought I could still make it. I heard Wolford was here.
And she'll kind of lift the bar. Sorry, that I had a sneeze coming. And she'll kind of lift the bar and just kind of open the door. Whoa, friend of yours.
Wolford was counting his coins, looks over. You pull the door open a little bit, and you see a fair woman with pale skin, a little bit darker hair. She does look pretty dirty, like she's been working outside or in some sort of cleaning where she's moving dirt around. But she lights up when she sees Wolford. Wolford! And Woe, as we're calling him now, calls her Ainsworth. I haven't seen you in so long. And she, at this point, tries to like push the door open. But Zaldrin, you're strong enough, she can't really do it. So she just kind of like slides in instead and rushes up to embrace Wolford and just plants a kiss right on him. Wolford seems surprised a little bit, but then he doesn't really mind it. And after a short kiss, he kind of pulls her back. And she just starts fawning over him. And then she's very concerned about like the bandage over his eye. She gently peels it back. And she's, oh, what happened to you? Oh, you're so brave to be able to deal with this. And so on and so on.
Zaldrin's going to open the door a little wider. Anybody else coming in for kisses for Woe? Anybody else? No.
You see Stick out there, the Skraeling that Gunk met before, and he's still got the cart that they're pulling that like they're shoveling up some compost. And when you say kisses for Wolford, what you talking about, lady? And then they just immediately start going back to work.
Have a good night. Closes the door, bars the door.
You close the door, bar the door. Wolford and Ainsworth start going to a corner of the tavern. It's not like secluded, but they're trying to just talk quietly to each other. The four of you, is there anything else you'd like to do before this quarter day ends?
No, Bacho just needs to sleep.
I would like to annoy Utska a little bit more.
Utska did leave because all the patrons have left at this point.
Oh, all right, no worries. It's time for sleep.
Gunk wants to try to bait the parasite at the beer. That's the
primary
focus. I don't want this staying in him. Who knows what's going to happen to him if it stays
I would be
longer.
plying him with a lot of alcohol because I'm convinced that is the way to do things.
No, please.
One more.
No, please. I need him.
Look at the big and size
I
of this
need
one.
him aware so he can direct me to things.
Yeah?
I will take that. I have finished my shift. I now will take those.
Look, another cat over there, Mirren.
Oh, where? I'll go find
And he
it.
closes the door when she leaves.
All right, let's do a healing check from Gunk.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I can.
If that's what you really want, I'll take an audience day.
You know what? I have a lot of empathy right now. I haven't burned it yet.
I don't.
You shut her out of the room. I mean, you're trying to like do surgery, right? That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That I have a couple ideas, but no, this is fine. We just do healing.
Can I assist while I'm in there somehow?
Yeah, I don't think Beric would appreciate Gunk trying to cut at his arm to look for parasites. So Bacho assisting by holding him down would definitely work.
Well, that's not I mean, if that's the way this is, like, so he's got.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood. That's fine. Go ahead and describe what you want.
All right, so I'm under the impression that this bite turns into a parasite, which then kind of grows inside you, very much like facehuggery turns into chest burster. Like that's sort of how I've been reading this. So, I mean, I passed the healing test. I have one success with the healing test, but I guess I was under the impression that if it's been some time, if he did get bit, like maybe it's already kind of growing in him somewhere, and so find a way to get it out of him. But if I'm just looking at the bite,
let's also add a lore test onto here as you're trying to decipher the life cycle of this parasite.
That's much better. I can do that. Okay. There we go. 2 successes.
Okay. To remind you of the facts that you know, is that this parasite seems to have 2 different forms of physiology. It has the eel that you've seen that somehow burrows in and either replaces the tongue or it stays in the throat somewhere. But you know that Skull like had small eels in like sores on her arm and things like that. She was able to cut it open and an eel came out. And then you also know the life cycle of the bat-like creature that was in the warren. That was very different than the eel, but supposedly was the same sort of creature. So you can't necessarily determine whether the eel would be able to lay more eggs by biting or not, but it is definitely a possibility. You could definitely be onto something, and Burek could be the perfect way to test for that. So we'll say with the successful healing test you got, how invasive do you want to be with this healing test?
Extraordinary. I'm down to 1 empathy. Screw this. I'm very pissed off.
All right.
No, I do not have good bedside manner. I'm not.
Bacho's behind him. He's basically just sinking his weight into him. He's got his muzzle over one shoulder. He's like, bite this stick.
And he is breaking the stick in half between his jaws. Gunk, you are trying not to do much damage, but you want to make sure that it's thorough. You're not trying to cause pain, I assume, but you are willing to cause pain if it gets results.
Right, of course. Like, I don't care if pain is a byproduct. I'm trying to save the world here. I don't care about this man's pain thresholds.
100%. I'm with you. So you basically cut several gashes along his forearm, probably 3 or 4, trying to miss major arteries. But if it was in the way, it's in the way. Through these gashes, you do not find any sort of eggs or eels or anything like that. As far as you can tell, he has not been infected. There aren't any signs of like burrowing, any sort of trauma from an eel like moving through the flesh that would cause massive bruising at the very least. You don't find any sort of signs of that. You don't find anything that seems smaller. It doesn't seem to like be almost it's not like scabies or something where it's like incredibly small and subdermal. As far as you can tell, he's not infected from that point.
Okay, so I've got good news and bad news, Burek.
We can also say, before you say that, I'm sorry, we can also say that Burek has passed out from shock at this point.
He'll still say it. I have good news and bad news for you, but you're asleep. Good news, doesn't seem you're infected. Bad news, it's probably going to scar. But that's cool. You know, scars are cool. Look at Bacho, he's got scars all over. Well, I don't think he's infected. I'm not sure, though.
The furless ones, they can never take pain. He passed out after the second cut.
It wasn't even very deep. I don't know.
Gunk, I can't find the kitty. Gunk, the kitty. Knock, knock, knock. Gunk,
it was probably
knock,
in
knock.
the rafters. Yeah, it was climb up into the rafters. That should.
Okay.
Maybe she'll fall and knock herself out.
All right. So let's start to wrap up this quarter day. I didn't think we'd spend this much time on it, but it's okay. We've been very thorough and that's fun. Wolford ushers Ainsworth to the door, and he's kind of like relishing the fact that he has the upper hand in this relationship, that she wants him. So he tells her, I'll see you tomorrow, those sort of things. I missed you too, but this is my team. I've got to stay with them. I'm sorry. And he pushes her out the door and bars it. The five of you then go to the two rooms that Burek told you were available. Mirren and Zaldrin, you go in one room, and there's a small bed on either side of the room. You'll have to deal with each other snoring, but it's not too bad. Bacho, Gunk, and Wolford, you go to the other room, and you realize that it's just one, basically a full-size bed. Wolford immediately looks at this and says, I don't want to be in the middle.
Is there a pillow?
There are two pillows.
I will take a pillow, and I will sleep on the pillow on the ground. And then the two large ones can take the bed.
Oh, good. I thought I'd have to sleep on the ground. Thank you, Gunk.
If you snore...
Bacho, Wolford, he's like, grabs the other pillow and gets down on the ground next to Gunk.
Well, could you perhaps share a pillow and I have the pillow? I need a pillow. I've got a back problem, and if my head doesn't just lay right on the bed, it causes me problems the next day. I'll be stiff all day tomorrow if I don't have a pillow.
But Bacho levers himself up. He's like, I can put you to sleep and you won't have to worry about it, or you can go to sleep on your own.
You won't hear another peep from me. He goes and lies down on the bed.
Good night, Pack, brother.
All right. Let's get this rest done. I'm sorry, I had to throw that last bit in there. It was in my notes, of course. You get your rest. We'll move to the next quarter day here. So it is morning of the next day. You awake from sounds in the tavern. Della has most definitely come to at this point. And she is basically getting breakfast going in the tavern. Let's actually pull back a little bit. Mirren and Zaldrin, what would it look like while you're sleeping in this room? Would there be anything happening?
No. Mirren is going to be like splayed eagle, arm just way up in the air, probably snoring as loudly as Zaldrin if Zaldrin chooses to snore.
Zaldrin snores quite loudly. But I think we've been traveling long enough that that's not going to be a bother. So
no,
I think there was a little sort of so now not only do we have Wolford in the pack, now we've got a female companion of Wolford's.
Oh, Mirren will come to consciousness slightly. That's totally fake. Definitely. I don't. This is no way, Wolford. That's a lie. It was a hallucination. It will go away when I wake up.
That would make much more sense. And before we know it, it's morning.
Okay. Bacho, Gunk, is there anything that happens with you two?
I mean, Bacho kind of has a very low growl instead of a snore that's resonates deep in his chest, and his tail just slaps against the floor like every 5 seconds, lightly.
Gunk will fall asleep very quickly. He will literally just start to kind of enwrap the pillow, and he will probably kick a bunch, like with his foot. But he will wake up feeling refreshed, much better mood as well.
So you wake up in the morning, you hear sounds coming from the tavern. It doesn't sound like patrons are in there yet, but there's definitely work happening, metal clanging, that kind of thing. Let's go big picture now after we went little picture. What would you guys like to accomplish today, especially for this first quarter? Is there anything that do you want to split up? Do you want to go together? I know we talked about going to the blacksmith today. Do you want that to be the first quarter, second order? What are your plans?
I think Bacho, first thing in the morning, would want to sort out his gear because he's looking to, purchase a little bit better armor and to help protect the pack a little bit better. He's realized that he's going to need something a little tougher. So that would be his first thing. He's like, seeing that there's already problems in this town, potentially, he wants to make sure that he gets done what needs to be done early.
Mirren would go with Bacho for that. She's definitely feeling the lack of resources, the freezing outside and the cold nipping.
And Mirren, you actually would not be cold anymore. You spent a quarter day resting in warmth.
Gunk, should we check on the cats or should we do some errands first and give it more time for the cats to
I
show
will check
some
on
signs?
all of the patients before I leave, just to ensure I want to check on Mildred, Birek, and I would like to also check on the cats and on Della. And then once that is done, I want to visit the Warren, because I need to warn them. You saw what happened to the last Skraeling Warren we came across, and I want to make sure that they are aware that something terrible is happening. And plus, it's been some time since I've been with, my kind, and that weren't taken over by parasites and trying to kill us. So I thought maybe I might get some more news. So that was my plan for today.
I actually saw one of my own last night while you were attending to the patients. There was an orc that came in.
Right. Awesome. That's cool. I want to do that thing where I pretend that all orcs know each other. I get that all the time with Skraeling. Like we all know each other just because we're Skraeling. But you made a friend. That is wonderful. That I did not see any orcs here.
Yeah. He actually seemed disappointed that he was looking for someone and I was not that person that he was looking for.
What was he looking for?
He didn't give a lot of information, but he seemed to have something that he was worried about, and the parasite was not something that he thought was a danger.
There is something worse than this. Oh dear. I need
Would you
my
like
coffee.
assistance checking on patients?
It would be helpful just to hold them down, just in case. Beric is going to be very pissed off at me, I think.
All right, let's handle this quickly. We're gonna just quickly through a bit of narration here. You can start with Mildred. She'll be the easiest one. You go in her room and you notice that Birik's not in there anymore. Mildred is still tied to the bed, and you try to check on her as best you can. She's still very hostile. If you try to open her jaw, it's clenched shut. She will not open it. She's not speaking. She hasn't much improved. If he kills off another Warren, I'm calling fall. I can kill all the Warrens I want. I'm the GM. I can't kill players, but I can kill Warrens.
You're kind of racist. You're just killing off Skraeling here. What are you trying to do here?
Is it racist if you created the race? I don't know. Maybe.
Wow, Mr. Power Hungry. I am God. I'm allowed to be racist.
Oh no. Cut that. We get it. That's not going on YouTube. All right. So then you go to check for Della. You see that she's in the kitchen working, and Birik is in there as well with a very bandaged arm, and he just scowls at you, Gunk. He is not happy whatsoever, but he continues working. If you speak to Della a little bit, she would express her thanks for helping. She seems a little regretful that she asked for your help, seeing as it did a bit of damage, but she is glad that you tried to help. She's not necessarily resentful. She just wishes it would have gone better. As far as you can tell, no one seems to be suffering any more from the parasite, with the exception of Mildred, who hasn't gotten better. Same with the cats. If you go in the room that they were herded into, they're cats. They're still just laying about or doing whatever they want. As soon as you open the door, a couple of them try to escape, but you block them with your leg. They go back in. So if I hear this right, Bacho, Mirren, and Zaldrin want to go up above ground and see the blacksmith, and Gunk, you want to go to the warren. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I want to burn the inn down too. These ungrateful pink-skinned furless freaks.
Fact. They've had their
You
one
did
and
cut
only
a dwarf's
chance.
arm to pieces. So, you know,
I got
In
a
an
couple
attempt to
bits
save his
around
life.
his arm in attempt to save his life after this other
That's
woman
true.
spit
That's
a
true. That's
freaking
true.
giant snake monster out of her mouth, and then his freaking boss eyes rolled back on her head and started talking about the end of world. But hey, go ahead and minimize
he
it.
didn't have that context, though. He didn't see any of that. He came in late. You know, context is important.
Then he fell asleep.
Zaldrin, do you want to check on your horses, or are you fine with them being in the stable?
Well, I mean, I sound like a bad horse owner if I don't go check on them. So
You don't have to.
I'm
It's fine.
just-
You paid for them to be in there. They're going to be guarded and fed. So
Yeah,
it's your call whether you want to double check.
I would say that I don't actually make a habit of checking in. I would say generally when we go back to gather Ven, it means we're leaving. So
Fair enough.
we go to the blacksmith.
So let's start with the three of you then. You're going to probably go with Wolford, and he'll guide you along. Wolford will give you directions to the nearest gate, so you'll be able to get out and go towards the warren as well. But he guides the three of you towards the amphitheater, the stairway, as some people refer to it by either name. You get there, you follow these winding tunnels. They're dark. There are torches on the walls. It still smells of like the decomposition of compost of the potato peels. And you get to this amphitheater that it opens up a little bit, and you can see some light coming in, just the gray light. It's not bright outside. You hear a little bit of rain as well coming through. Apparently, it's not very good weather today. This amphitheater is mostly buried. It seems like the stairway is it's sort of pie-shaped, but not like a full semicircle like an amphitheater would be. It's much more narrow. They haven't bothered to keep much of it clean. This obviously has not seen much use in a long time, but the fact that it even existed is kind of impressive in some way, that a construction like this was made at some point. You don't see any sort of buildings like this anywhere else. It's a real shame that it's buried, it's not been maintained, but there's so much volcanic ash that's come down in the last centuries that you're, 15, 20 feet below ground at this point. There's a bit of a line to get through this stairway. You have to wait in line. It's not a long line, but as you get up, you do meet a guard. He is a middle-aged man. He's got a little bit of a beard. He's got a pot helm on, and he looks at you a little bit strangely. You all must be new. I don't see you very often.
We're new.
Do you know the rules?
Nope.
Fair enough. I'm Ailston. If you have any problems, you come directly to me. You pay 1 silver now. You can be up as long as you want throughout the day. As soon as the sun goes down, you must be back underground or outside of the city. The wood planks are for the elves only, the nobility only. You must walk in the mud. Your shoes will get dirty. Suck it up. I don't care. Don't come complaining to me. It's gonna happen. Don't cause any trouble. If any trouble happens, I will come find you, or you should run away. We don't want any heroes up there. Speaking of which, if you find hear anything strange, if there are any rumors, we have an arsonist that's been happening recently. There is a reward. If you find the arsonist, come tell me directly. Do not try to take him in. We don't want vigilantes. You are not law enforcement. Just tell me. Understood? Are we all on the same page?
What if we find him unconscious
You come tell
and
me.
bring him in?
You don't bring him in. You come tell me. How would you know he's the arsonist if he's unconscious?
If he fell off a building after lighting it,
Then you would come tell me.
I understand your rules, Pink Skin. Don't worry, we don't plan on staying in this hovel that long.
All right, fair enough. 1 silver each. As you
There you
give him
go.
a silver, he gives you each a metallic badge. It's been painted a very bright blue, and he just tells you to place it somewhere prominently just to show that you've paid the tax. As you get up, the rain is coming down. It's not pleasant conditions. You see people that are coming and going. They've all got their cowls up on their cloaks. They're huddled underneath them as best they can. There are a lot of people that are just walking through mud. It's just puddles at this point from the rain. There are a few people that are walking on relatively well-maintained wooden planks. And they go along the center of each road, and then they have planks that go off as well to certain buildings and different streets, things like that. Those are high enough that the water and the mud doesn't really go on them. There can be mud that splashes on them, but they get to keep their shoes clean, their cloaks clean, whereas you all are forced to walk in the muck. The buildings up here are entirely wooden with thatch roofs. It's so strange to come from a town underground that was magnificently built. There was such skill and craftsmanship in all of the stone walls and the tile floors and the interior roofs. To come out here and you just see plain wooden and thatch buildings, and this is where the nobility lived, it's very strange. But on the other hand, it is also clean. It smells better up here. There's not sewage and waste just piled on the streets. You can tell that the buildings are well maintained. The thatch roofs have been patched. It doesn't look like there's been any sort of neglect. So on one hand, this is a nicer place to live. And on the other hand, it's just much uglier. Wofford would be happy to guide you towards the blacksmith. Bacho, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. Not really pick on you. I want a scouting roll.
Pick away, scouting. Okay. Now that I'm healed up and feeling better, I can do that. Let's see. 5 wits. Scouting is 2 dice. So, here. 3 successes.
3. That's great. So as you're walking along, you're going through the muck, and it's slow going, and you're trying your best to pick the drier spots, but every time you take a step, you sink a little bit in. Bacho, it's not as big of a deal for you with your paws and claws. For the rest of you wearing boots, it's miserable. The mud sticks to them. The water seeps through, and it just kind of puddles inside your boots. It's not fun.
Bacho would actually be carrying Mirren on his back, so she didn't have to walk
Perfect.
through it.
Thank you, Bacho.
What a gentleman.
We're back.
We are. You know, Bacho, if I was the arsonist, I think I would burn the walkways first.
I like the way you think, Mirren.
Right? Yeah,
These- Knife ears are way too soft.
definitely.
Also, Mirren, while we're on the subject, you are incredibly hungover. That potato ale does not do well. Wofford said you wouldn't be hungover, and then he said you will be. You definitely are. But Bacho,
Yeah.
with those 3 scouting successes, you don't feel like you need to be on edge. You're in a safe town. But then you see someone is moving with a purpose directly towards you. They're starting on the wooden planks. So they must be some sort of nobility. As she gets closer, you see she pulls her cowl back, and she has a fury on her. And you also see that she pulls a knife from her belt and gets it ready, and she is heading directly at you. You look around, there is no other group she could be coming at right now. What are you doing?
What is your concern, elf?
Give me a manipulation.
Strong suit here, guys.
Yeah, elf.
That's a 2 on the empathy and a 0 dice in manipulation.
Can I give him a +1?
Would you like an
You have
audience
a +1
die?
for Mirren.
Yeah,
And you can take audience if you want.
Okay, I'll take an audience dice and a +1 from Mirren. We'll see. No, I'm gonna push. 1 success and 1 empathy damage.
Okay.
So
One
Bacho's
success
just
is actually not enough on this.
figured.
The elf doesn't even respond to you. And she has the knife ready. And as she gets closer, she reaches out as if she's going to stab at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Zaldrin at this point, especially with Mirren on Bacho's shoulders, Zaldrin would be positioning herself between Bacho, Mirren, and this individual. And just drawing herself up. Not that she needs to because she's an orc, but
Yeah, absolutely. So the three of you prepare for a fight here. The knife is coming down, and actually an arm comes out from between Bacho and Zaldrin. Wolford goes to grab it. Mare, this is not the right way. And he grabs her arm, and with her other arm, she just reaches and full on slaps him as hard as she can. He
That's
turns.
more normal.
That wasn't necessary. And you can see that he's got a massive hand imprint on his face where he's got the missing eye as well. So it definitely had to sting. You bastard. You used me. Mare, we used each other. What are you guys doing?
Bacho, sorry, go ahead.
Zaldrin would back up at this point because this doesn't appear to be Bacho or Mirren at risk. And so Zaldrin is just going to kind of like back up and be like, you want to slap Wolford and you've got some history? I don't need to take a knife wound for that.
Bacho puts his big clawed hand on the back of Wolford's head. So his claws are kind of coming over the top of his forehead, and he's tapping his skull. And he's like, Wolford's part of the back.
And
You
while
can't-
Bacho is leaning over, Mirren just vomits all down the top of Wolford's head.
All right. With that sort of double team intimidation tactics, she lets go of the knife. There's a giant wolfkin in front of her. She's just a small elf. You bastard. She wrenches her hand away, and then she keeps walking.
Another friend of yours, Wolford?
We were close at one point.
I can see that.
Leaning forward didn't work well.
That's all right, Mirren. The rain will wash it off his head.
That's good.
What did you do to her, Wolford? And is she going to come back for us?
You guys continue walking to the blacksmith, and Wolford begins to tell a little tale. It kind of goes back to Dustin. Do you remember that sorcerer that we were going to meet? Well, Mare, she's a sorceress. She's very talented. We were together, and she told me some interesting details about Dustin. And that's when I left to go work for Dustin. Did I mention that I worked for Dustin? Yeah. We worked for a while. We were good together. Yeah. And not much came of it. Well, something came of it. I got those 2 tablets. Well, the 1 tablet, and then we found the 2 tablets. But so something came of it. But what was I saying? Oh, here, we're at the blacksmith. And he knocks at the door.
You were saying that you bedded and abandoned your mate for a friend that you betrayed. I think I've got that right.
I think some of those details are misconstrued, but we're here. And you hear the sounds, the chink on hammer on anvil, and a dwarf comes and answers the door. He's got very dark skin. You can tell that he has a very strong build. He's got one arm that's just massive compared to the other, but he's also wearing a helm and some leather armor, as if he used to be a warrior. It doesn't necessarily look like he's prepared for battle. It just seems something that it's more like a custom for him to wear. He opens up the door and he's got a look of hopefulness. And then when he sees you all, he just looks a little downtrodden. Oh, customers. Yes. Come in. Come in. Whatever you need, I've got it.
What were you looking? Who were you expecting, Master Dwarf?
Oh, nothing. Don't worry about it. What can I get for you? Are you new here? I haven't seen you before.
Yep.
Indeed. I'm looking for better armor and perhaps a helm. The world is a difficult place out there.
Well, you're in luck. Brennan actually hired me for quite a bit of arms and armor, and then well, his soldiers declined to take them. So I've got quite the stockpile. Anything you need, I've got it for you. And you guys
Yes,
can go
I'm-
through some. Sorry, go ahead.
Looking to trade out this spear that clearly is not long enough for me.
It's my sized.
Looking for one that's more my size.
And you guys can go through the back and forth of purchasing. It takes a while, especially finding armor for Bacho that'll fit and sized correctly. So you guys are spending a bit of time here, and you're starting to get to know Hayrig a little bit. He seems friendly enough. He definitely seems a bit distracted. You spend by the time you're about to settle up, you're paying him the coin. You've got all your gear. He looks like he's about to say something, then stops, and then says, "Could I ask of you a favor?"
You've treated with us very fairly, of course.
I don't know if I can trust you. You're new to this town. I don't know you. But on the other hand, I know everyone in this town I cannot trust. So that makes you the most trustworthy people. My son is missing, and I will pay very well if you can find him.
Oh,
How long has he been missing?
Over a week.
where
What?
was he last seen?
Here in this house. Now, I should tell you, my son he looks a little strange. You'll definitely recognize him when you see him.
Is he not a dwarf?
He's more of an adopted son.
What is his name?
Cole, whether he responds to that, I cannot promise.
And if your son is not a dwarf, what is he?
He's a good son. He's just lost his way. And I know no
You'll
one in
need
this
to
town would be able to
recognize
help him.
him.
If he could just come back, I could help him. I fear that he's responsible for some very tragic happenings lately.
So he
He's the
likes fire.
arsonist.
He is prone to starting fires.
You still haven't told me what he looks like.
He's got dark hair, and skin the shade of
Oh,
birchwood.
he has skin. Okay.
My height, her height.
Closer to hers, but a bit in between.
I'm going to be very, very direct with you here, Hayrig. Is your son a human?
No.
Is he a dwarf?
My son he's alive. He is alive, but he's
Is he made of wood? Is your son a puppet?
He's not a puppet. He is a construct.
I was literally typing that in the chat as you said that.
Good call.
So a sentient construct is loose in the city that you're concerned might be doing bad things, and you want him found and brought back to you.
I'm going to be honest. This is difficult for me. Like I said, I don't know if I can trust you. I would appreciate if we could be discreet about this. I know that if he's found, they would not be, yes, I will pay. They would not be, he needs help. That's all it is. He needs help.
I will not get between a father and his litter. Your pack is your pack. If you want us to find your son, we'll see what we can do.
I owe nothing to people that make me walk in mud.
I do not mind the walking in the mud. I mind that there are wood for other people to walk in.
May we see where he stayed to see if we can maybe find some clue as to where he may have gone within the city or where he may hide.
Yes, and he shows you around the smithy. It's one room. The furnace takes up the majority of this room as well, and it's clay. The chimney goes all the way up through the thatch roof, and he shows you various things about how he built him, where he stayed. It was really just a partitioned corner. It had a couple cloaks, and he would just the son would stay in that corner. Hayrig would tell you that he's very attracted to fire, as well as liking to start it.
Can you tell us, Hayrig, where the arsonist has struck within the city so we can determine if there's a pattern of movement, which fires were started first and where they were at?
I can tell you that I don't think there can't be a pattern. He doesn't know anyone. He's never met anyone other than me. I would say it seems that he's just attracted to wherever the fire might be brightest where he's at.
So you don't think he's starting the fire, you just think he's attracted to it?
I think he makes the fire worse. I don't think it's intentional. He doesn't have that in him. It's an accident. It has to be an accident.
Well, can you at least show us where the fires were so we can see if the locations may indicate a place that he's hiding? A centralized place.
Also,
and yeah, go
did
ahead.
you make him with the wood from an orchard nearby?
No, I had a carpenter deliver the wood to me. I'm not sure where it came from. And to be fair, he's mostly metal. The wood I just used for his face. And we can say that you spend the rest of this quarter day with Hayrig kind of showing you around the town a little bit. Most of the places that have burned had larger fireplaces. They tended to be the bigger buildings. Not necessarily fireplaces, but hearths. So like the longer halls that would house a lot more people, those kind of places tended to be the ones that were targeted, which is also partly why no one's necessarily found who did it, because there's a lot of people that stay in each of those halls. It helps that it's been so rainy lately that a couple of these fires haven't really caught on. The wood hasn't burned quite as badly, but there's definitely been at least 3 or 4 of them. It seems like the boy is starting a fire every other day at least.
Okay, so you're got to my next question. So it's every other day or so at a minimum. And are the fires started at night or?
Yes, all the fires have happened at night. As far as Hayrig knows, no one has seen Cole. He hasn't seen him since Cole left. So it seems that Cole stays inactive during the day. And then you would also learn throughout this process that Hayrig only had Cole for a couple days before Cole left.
Hey, Rig, if we're to find coal, we may need to be able to be up here and active at night. Is there some way that you can make that happen?
Oh, that's asking quite a bit. The passes are pretty strict. I'll talk to Ailston. I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can tell him that you're working for me. You're bringing coal. That I always need more coal, and sometimes it has to be delivered late. So I'll speak to him and see what I can do.
Or if you know maybe another way into the top side.
I'm not one for skullduggery. I wouldn't know any sort of extra ways through the gates.
And Mirren, I don't want to be caught up here at night by the guard without a pass. If we risk much for we need to be able to move freely up here at night if we're going to look for this construct.
That's a good point.
So let's cut here and go to Gunk. Gunk, you went directly to one of the gates that leads out of the city. And there are several trails that go various directions. The town is where most people come to sleep, and it's where they stay during the darkness. But they definitely have to come and go. There's a lot of supplies that have to come through, so trails have been worn down. Woford gave you general directions to the Warren. It's not close, but it's also not far. It is the most well-traveled trail, and you can also see that there are several wagons that come and go. Not wagons, sleds. The various kinds that you saw, like stick, plowing through. So there's a lot of tracks that are easy to follow. As you start crossing over a hill to this warren, you'll be able to see the whaling camp nearby. It's basically a coastal village, close enough to the town that if reavers ever attacked, the people could retreat to the town walls. But all the boats are out there. It's where most of the fishermen stay, so they're near their work. And there's a lot of buzz and activity that happens there. Any sort of goods that are transported by boat come from there, and then they're pulled up to the town. You continue on, and you said you have not been to Terran before, right?
Correct. Yeah, I haven't been here.
Okay. So this warren is entirely new to you. As you get closer, you see the buzz of Skraeling is unlike anything you've seen before. There are so many of them here. Whereas Terran is almost a ghost town. Like it can hold so much more population than it actually has. This warren is bursting at the seams. As you get closer, these Skraelings are almost like moving on top of each other to try and get through. At each of these entrances in and out of the warren, there's constantly Skraeling coming and going, and they're just pushing past each other. They're not even waiting for one to come out before the next one goes in. Even the sleds that are being pulled out, Skraeling are completely willing to just jump on top of the sled to climb over it as it's being pulled out, and they go the other direction. As you're used to, there's no real concept of personal space, personal property. It's communal, but not in the sense that it's positive. It's just how you grew up. It's not like it's benevolent, but if there's something there and you need it, you use it. That's just Skraeling culture. What specifically are you trying to do here?
So I think he has a couple tasks in mind, in no particular order. I think he would like to talk to the Rat King. He feels an obligation to his people to warn them about what's potentially coming for Terran, even if the humans won't listen. Maybe the Skraeling will. I would guess he probably thinks that they probably won't listen, but regardless, he would still want to try. So that's one thing. I think the other thing you would want to do is get more news, because the two that he talked to, Stick and Chit. Didn't really, they were dumb. So I want to see if I can find more intelligent Skraeling.
That's funny. They thought you were dumb.
They are incorrect. I am quite, that is, you might say, that is my superpower. It's my wits.
So I'm going to see if I can speak to some others and just sort of get just trying to get some basic rumors, lay of the land, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start with the Rat King because you might be able to accomplish both with him. So you start heading into the warren. No one stops you. You're a Skraeling. They're all Skraeling. You tend to have more gear and equipment than most of them. Most of them are wearing rags. They're not really carrying much. It helps them move around easier in the warrens. But there are a few like you that are a little bit more overburdened. So you're not really standing out much either. You can easily ask directions, and the Skraeling will not even question why you don't know where anything is. They just kind of give you directions as they're still moving away, as if they can't even be bothered to stop. But you make your way through this warren. You go deep underneath the earth. This warren goes much deeper than any other warren that you've seen. And as you're going down, you can see the different layers of earth. You can see that there are like different layers of ash and soil. There are different types of rock as you go deeper. And you can almost see the history of this warren as they continued to build it. As the ash fell, they continued to raise the warren up. But they also still use the warren that was down below that started there.
Right. So in my backstory, like one of the things that we've covered is like where he's from, the warren specifically did this similar things, except it was more of like we shut off the lower levels, like the older warrens, and we kept getting closer and closer to the surface. So I would say he might have been in a place that's gone as deep, but didn't get as populated as that. It was just more of like he's not used to them being willing, like the places where he was, like they just shut off like exploration. They wouldn't let us look below, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. Because, like you said, the warren you were at, they shut it off. This warren has so many Skraeling that they need the space. They're just constantly expanding, and you can see that they're like constantly pulling baskets and buckets of soil from different places. They're going wider as well as deeper, just continuing to expand. Something about this warren, it's just an exploding population. Eventually, you get to a den of sorts. It's still got 5-6 different entrances in and out, but it's a circular room, and you see that there is an older Skraeling, which doesn't necessarily mean much for Skraeling. They don't live as long as humans do. But he's got the white whiskers, the white fur, and he's got like all sorts of ceremonial gear draped about him. To a human, this would be nothing valuable, but to a Skraeling, it's magnificent. You know, it's all sorts of amulets and talismans, and you would be able to see these and you would know the history behind them. You would know the meaning behind them, like what this charm is supposed to do, that sort of thing. He's got a sort of a walking stick. It's very jagged and curved. It wouldn't actually support any weight, but there's a sort of authority to it. The fact that he's holding it, you know that he is the Rat King. And around him are 15-20 pups, just child Skraelings. And he's telling a story, and it's got a sort of melody to it, almost as if he's singing it, but it's a spoken story. The melody kind of gives it a cadence, which you would know helps the memorization. The fact that he has a sort of verse makes it easier to tell the story again. And these pups are hanging on every word. They are just entirely enraptured in it. It's almost as if there's a magic happening, a sort of spell that's being enchanted here. And it kind of brings you back. It gives you nostalgia for your younger days, a little bit more peaceful days. And at the same time, it reminds you of the power that you have now, knowing that you could almost enchant in the same way. You've achieved so much in your life that you would be capable of the things that you would have never been able to do as a young pup. After a while, his story ends. The pups start going different ways. There's no actual parents watching them or anything. They just start scurrying about. And you would get an opening where you could go up and speak to him.
And so I will. Gunk didn't have a good childhood, in fact, actually. Like he was specifically kind of outcast.
Okay,
he was sort of, yeah. So like I would say seeing this is probably causing him more anxiety than anything. The fact that there are so many people and that they're all here, and he was left behind by his warren when they fled, probably for good reason. So it is sort of a weird.
Oh, I'm just jabbing at you. Then I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like he's this is probably more of like the fact that he's doing this is like he's proud of himself, probably, like that he's willing to do this, but at the same time he feels like this obligation. So he will deferentially, as best he can, like, pardon me, your honor, holiness, Scud, your Scud. I am Gunk. I am new to the Warren. I'm a visitor. I've come with news of import that I wish to share with the Skraeling of Terran, and also to perhaps exchange information, if that is possible.
Information is my profession. What news do you have? You're new to the Warren?
I am a visitor in Terran. I am a traveler. I am here with my pack, and we are in Terran visiting, and I wanted to see my people and warn them of dangers that loom large on the horizon.
Of course. You're welcome to stay. We don't turn anyone away here.
I will hold you to that. So, first, I must warn you. Well, of two things. Well, first, I don't know where to start. I should have planned this. I'm sorry. There is
Take a moment. Take a moment. Gather your thoughts. It's fine.
Right. Usually,
there's no rush.
Whenever I'm in tunnels with other Skraeling, they're either trying to kill me or eat me or something. Okay, anyhow.
Don't worry, I already had breakfast.
What? Oh, that is joke. Okay, good. Okay.
I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat you. You are safe.
Okay. So, there is great illness, infection, sickness that is spreading the surface dwellers. And while it might seem as though this might not have any impact on Skraeling who live within our warrens, I am regretful to inform you that it is not the case, that there was an entire warren outside of the town of Rochdale that has fallen to this infection. And we have seen evidence. Yes.
What do you mean fallen?
They were infected by a parasite. There was a leader there, the name of Skull, who she...
I've heard of Skull.
She was
They've
taken
had
over.
many refugees from Rochdale. You said that she's taken over.
Yes.
It was not a peaceful transition. Many Skraeling came here. We are a bit of a refuge.
She was not in her right mind. She was infected with an ancient species of some kind, I think, a parasite that took over her mind, controlled her thoughts, turned her to darkness, and she ruled with such malice. And I am pleased to hear that some of the Rochdale Skraelings made it out alive. But she has been dealt with. She is not of the concern specifically. But that very infection, that very species that is invasively taking over on the land is responsible for her in the Rochdale Warren. And we have seen signs that it is here now in Terran.
Give me a manipulation check, and I'm going to say +2 here. Because you dropped the right keywords for him. He's already had refugees come through, and you mentioned Scud.
All right, I will take a bonus die. What was it?
Okay.
That's all right. Okay. 2 successes. Boom. Nice.
Okay, perfect. You can see there's a look of grave concern. He asks you more specific details, specifically about the Warren. He has you tell the entire story from start to finish. As you mentioned, is there anything you don't mention? I should ask.
I will tell him everything, but I will be very. I will withhold or very reluctantly admit that we basically killed a bunch of the infected Skraeling. I will stress that this was a last resort. It's not what we wanted to do, of course, but it had to be done.
And when you get to that part, he can sense your anxiety, and he almost tries to calm you, as if he understands that you had no choice. It was for the good of the war and for the good of all Skraeling. He definitely has a look of grave concern, and then he starts to ask what you think they could actually do to prevent this from happening again.
Oh, you need to be more careful with what you scavenge, especially when it is creatures. You know, when you are taking strays for food, or if you are spending time, getting the carcasses that have been left out in the sun. These things, be very careful because these creatures hide within, and look out for. They're very small bites. So if you look for wounds with tiny little dots, like the size of a very small snake, but circular on people's bodies. Look out for that, and then anyone who is
I will
ill,
tell as many Skraeling as I can. This is of grave concern, but I am worried that I won't be able to tell enough. There are so many of us. We don't have laws like the humans do. If a Skraeling wants to scavenge, they scavenge. I can only warn them, but I cannot enforce anything.
Yes, of course, of course. I understand, but you are the Rat King. You can inspire them. You can convince them with your words. I saw what you did with the pups. Adult Skraelings are no different. You can reach them as well, and they would be. You could persuade them that for the time being, at least, especially before the week of darkness. They need to be more careful.
I will begin telling the story. I will tell the story to everyone I can. What would help is if I shouldn't even ask this, but if we had one of these Skaden, did you call it?
Yes.
If we could show what to avoid. Obviously not alive, that would be so dangerous, but if you could bring one dead that I could show and teach with to inspire and maybe coerce people into Skraeling into avoiding.
I can do this. I'm very good at this. I have captured four, maybe. And we just removed one from a woman in the All-Seeing Eye. It's something about the potato. I don't remember the name, but it was a very frustrating night. That is a different story.
Potatoes. We grow plenty of potatoes if you wish them. We grow enough for the whole town.
Excellent. That is. Yes. Okay. Well, yes. And I will see. I will see if I can find you another. And I have heard rumors. Oh, the orchard. Stay away from the orchard as well. There are rumors of bats that these creatures can evolve into, and do not visit the orchards if your people visit the orchards. Please.
Well, you were in luck there. Most Skraeling do not go to the orchards, as we've heard rumors lately. Stories have been told that they are cursed. Especially in recent weeks, several Skraeling that went there never returned.
Oh no, cursed orchards. That is,
and we're Skraeling, so sometimes Skraeling just disappear. They go to a different warren. They decide to travel, but some families are very concerned about their loved ones.
Yeah. My pack. We were thinking perhaps of visiting the orchards for this other
I cannot stress enough that you should not do that. It would be incredibly dangerous.
Oh yes, but let me tell you about my pack first. My fur brother Bacho, he is the strongest and most powerful warrior I have ever seen. That he is amazing. He could take an army down if he gets hungry or angry enough or hangry enough. But then Zaldrin, she's master of horses and she's master of spear. And then Mirren's just really cool and she drinks lots of. Well, she's like me, very small, but she's cool. She's cool. Trust me, we got this.
As you're describing your pack, you can almost see that he's a little bit mouthing the words as if to cement them in his memory. That's his entire profession, is to remember things. So as you're telling the story, as you're mentioning the pack, you can see that he's very focused on you, almost hyper-focused. Even as Skraeling are coming through, they're making noise, nothing pulls his attention away from you. And you mentioned the three members of your pack, and he says, just the three? Is there anyone else?
Yes, there is. There is Wolfert as well. He is an acquired taste, but he has a good heart? Question mark.
Questionable heart. I will remember that.
He's
the roadie.
Exactly. He is growing on us like a fungus.
All right, Gunk, you have definitely made an impact on them. He's definitely concerned. How much of his influence will actually make a difference is questionable, but being an elder, being able to tell stories like that, there's definitely a good chance that you're going to be able to spread the word. Is there anything else you want to accomplish from this?
Yeah, so in this particular conversation, or just by being in the Warren?
Either.
So yeah, I think one of the other things that Gunk was probably looking to do is do some training, try to figure out, like, because like it's been a long time since he's spent with Skraeling, and Skraeling have a knack for scavenging, packing, moving things, and so it's been a long while since he's sort of been amongst those, and kind of remember some of those traits from he was younger. And so he's probably trying to do a little bit of training, and specifically like the pack rat talent, just trying to like refresh my memory on how to move more quickly, how to move more light, with greater lightness and that kind of stuff.
Well, you're in luck because as you're speaking to Scud, you hear the rumble of a sled coming through, and you see your good buddy Stick pulling the sled, and he perks up at seeing you. It's the tunnel guy, and I'm not a newt. You must have. Did you leave the tunnel to get to this tunnel?
Sure.
Did you see the sun for once?
Right. It's bright. Yeah. Hey,
it's not that bright. It's covered with clouds. It's obviously your first time seeing it. It would be bright for someone who lived in a tunnel their whole life.
Right, man. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to look over at the Rat King just to see how he's reacting to Stick approaching.
At this point, as soon as Stick started talking to you, you completely lost the Rat King's attention.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he started moving off to something else that he's hyper focusing on.
Stick is the Wolfert of Skraeling, I fear.
So Stick would then extend an offer for you to help him with his sled, and he would show you all the professional Skraeling tips on how to pack a sled properly and how to perfectly organize and Tetris all these baskets of potatoes and compost to make it the easiest to carry. So you can count that as your training, and you can make your wits roll for that.
Awesome.
We're coming close to time, but let's cut back to the other three. We're going to say that was the morning quarter. So we're moving into afternoon. Is there anything you guys would like to start doing? We're not going to be able to do the whole quarter right now.
Remind me again what the name of the guard that we were supposed to ask everything to again?
Ailston.
Mirren would go and try to find Ailston to ask if there was sort of a barracks or a training ground around where she could now, with a new longbow, practice and maybe get some tips from an archery master.
At first, Ilston would be very annoyed that you're asking about questions about the guards. But you're a very likable halfling, and let's be honest, most humans aren't intimidated by halflings. So he kind of would almost treat you as a bit of a child and like assume you have childlike curiosity.
Yeah.
And think that this is just a hobby for you more than anything. And at that point, he himself would be happy to give you some tips on how to use the longbow.
So if you can, because I know I can shoot and then shoot again, but I can't do the hands right. Please.
Oh, well, it's a little different for you because you're so short, but you need to have.
I am very tall sometimes.
I'm sure you're tall for your people. You need to have your grip just a little bit higher, and you see how you're holding it in the back of your palm. You need it to be in the front of your palm. You really want to use those finger muscles. No, the other hand. The other hand. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Have you shot a bow before? Yeah, of course you have.
Yes.
And we'll be able to say, we'll be able to say that between these tips here, you'll be able to train a bit more with the longbow. Did you need to make a wits roll for that, or were you just a?
Well, I'm hoping that I can bypass the wits roll if he has fast shooter as a talent. And he can train
with the
me.
training, you don't necessarily need the wits roll, do you? I forgot the rules there. Yes, and we'll also bypass the 1 silver that costs for a teacher. Same with you, Gunk, because you already paid him your silver. He's not going to charge you for the time. Okay. And there are a couple other guards at the stairway too that he seems happy enough to let them do the work while he's messing around with you.
Yeah, that's
Zaldrin and Bacho, is there any sort of training you wanted to do with this quarter day?
No, but Bacho would be scouting around the town, trying to find a likely location that Cole might strike next. You know, looking at hearth size and where the other fires were and seeing if there's any kind of indication of what's a likely location that he might try to hit.
I would like a scouting roll for that. And because I kind of cheated you out of your 3 successes from your previous scouting roll, take a +1.
All right. I will do that. Okay, so 5 wits, 2 scouting, +1. 8 dice. 1, 2 successes, but I'm going to push it because I don't have any 1s at the moment. Okay, 4 successes in total.
4 successes. Wow. Okay.
And no damage.
So to start with, you're looking for basically sources of heat and fire. You're also looking at the places that have been set on fire or have been fully burned. Some of them are thatch houses that are just they're just burnt timbers now. There's nothing left. It's just like the ribs of this house, and the roof is entirely collapsed. Others are damaged walls, and maybe some thatch has gone up, but most of it is still secured. You would see people that are repairing the thatch right away. A little bit of carpentry is happening. The people here definitely seem concerned about fixing it quickly. As you're going about looking at these places, they don't necessarily have a pattern. Most of them are on the same quarter of the town. The town itself is just a big square, and it's cut into 4 sections. Most of them seem to be in the same section. As you're going through there, the biggest fireplace that you've seen that's still standing is a mead hall. It's not necessarily a lord's hall. It's more of a community hall, a place where feasts happen occasionally, not like the grand feasts where everyone would go to the lord's hall, but for smaller festivities, smaller community gatherings. That's where a lot of people would go. There is a large hearth that runs through the majority of that hall, and even from a distance, you can see the smoke coming out of the opening in the thatch roof. As you're looking at this hall with your 4 successes, you're going to see footprints in the mud. These footprints are very short and small, almost like halfling-sized feet, But the strange thing is that they're incredibly deep. There's weight to them. It almost makes it seem like someone was walking on stilts because there's so much weight that's just been compressed into this mud. But it is definitely a foot shape. It's not like a wooden shape like it would have been stilts, but there's just something about it that it's off. It's like the weight of a human in a child-sized foot.
Like iron construct?
Very well could be. With 4 successes, that would be a very safe bet. And you see some of these tracks are around various points of the quarter. You don't necessarily know which way they end because with the rain coming down, it's washed away a lot. It's difficult to follow. There's still traffic that's coming through that's messed them up. But you find these tracks at various points in the town, and there's quite a few of them around the mead hall as well that you were just looking at. It's a very safe bet that this construct has been around there.
Okay.
Zaldrin. I'm sorry, Bacha, did you have another follow-up question?
No, but he would just go back to Mirren and Zoldrin and explain what he thinks is the likely next target for Cole.
So before he does that, we'll go ahead and say that happens. But Zaldrin, is there anything else you wanted to be doing? Any sort of training or downtime? Oh, you're muted.
So Zaldrin is going to she's gonna try to work on her firm grip. But basically she's just gonna try to find like a group of like kids or something that are hanging around. And she's gonna like because we already got our new equipment from
Yes,
Hayrick,
you've
right?
been to the blacksmith, you got your spear.
Okay. And so she's basically just gonna be like, yeah, try to take it out of my hand. Yeah, try to take it out of my hand. And just like have this like group of kids that are all just like trying to like get the spear out of her hand.
So there's a group of kids. It's still pouring rain, but it's lightened up a bit at this point, and the kids are playing in the mud. There's a couple of them that are incredibly filthy, and a couple that are like staying on the wooden planks, and they're like nervous to get muddy. You can tell the difference. The muddy ones are humans, and then the cleaner ones are elven children. How childlike they actually are, they could be 75 years old for all you know. But they're definitely a bit standoffish. As you go through, it becomes a bit of a tug of war, and the kids are loving it because the mud makes everything slippery, so they can't actually gain any traction with the spear. Let's go ahead and make a might check here, just for fun.
All right, so that's oh goodness, I need another one of those and one of those. All right. I'm gonna push. That is no successes on the initial roll. Well, that is 1 strength, 1 willpower, 1 strength damage, and 1 success.
All right. It's so wet and slick out that there's a point where you're almost tumbling as well. And the mud kind of splashes up on you, but they're children. You're obviously going to be able to be stronger than them. There's a point where a child elf actually steps into the mud for the first time after you're testing yourself with these kids. And one of the other elves kind of says, Austin, what are you doing? Go, you're going to get in so much trouble. And he looks back. I'm going to beat this orc. He comes up and he pulls on the spear as strong as he can. And it's pitiful compared to you. Even the other human children were doing much better. So you were kind of like prepared for the strength of the other children, and you pull hard enough that he just flies forward and flat on his face. And he begins sobbing, just crying as it's so loud that it's actually coming up, echoing over the sounds of the rain. And you also see some other elves on the planks that are looking towards you with fear and concern, maybe a bit of anger. What are you doing?
Zaldrin's just gonna stay put and just say, this one thought he was a bit stronger than he is, and went a little face first.
One of the elves comes up and sorry, 1 second. He's got a mustache, goatee, short curly hair, very dark skin, and a very stern look. How dare you lay hands on the son of Gideon Brennan?
I laid no hands on anyone.
That is
In
Austin.
fact.
He is fourth in line for the throne. You have just
All the better for him to learn.
thrown him in the
skills.
mud.
And Zaldrin is just sort of not going to sort of step down, but not necessarily engaging a whole lot, just kind of seeing what's going to happen. Like, he thought he was a bit stronger than he was. He learned that he is not as strong as he thought he was. I met no ill will.
With this sort of back and forth, a crowd begins to gather. Most of them humans in the mud, but there are several elves on the wooden planks that are very upset as well. And the man that's speaking to you has not left the wood either. If that child is hurt, you will be hung.
And she just sort of looks over the kid. You hurt?
He is still crying, but he's like on his knees now, and he pulls up, and the sobbing's not nearly as loud, but he's still just covered in mud. And he looks up. I'm tough.
You are. If you keep practicing, you'll get stronger. You're just not there yet. And
I'm
she'll kind of
stronger than
offer-
you. I just slipped.
You did. This is true. And she'll offer like an open hand.
He just slaps your hand away, gets a little bit of mud on you, and starts to scramble through the mud. And once he makes his way back to the wooden planks, he starts just running as quickly as he can. And he actually, yeah, I rolled a 1 on that. He slips on one of the wooden planks and just goes sprawling once again into the mud, just kind of slides off into the mud before he gathers and keeps going. The crowd around you is still very much concerned. They're more interested in what's going to happen to you than the actual safety of the child. But we're going to go ahead and end here for the night. Good session, guys. I enjoyed that a lot. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed
Great.
digging into your characters.
Great place to leave me hanging. Is anybody else with me? I don't think anybody else is with me. I think
No,
I'm by myself.
Mirren is training with her bow. Bacho is looking at the mead hall. Gunk is in the Warrens.
To be fair, you literally just walked up to a bunch of kids on the road and like, hey, try to take this weapon
I
off
know.
of me. Kind of.
Yeah.
I think you get arrested for that nowadays.
You could have been beating up guards with me.
I could have beating up guards with you. And I was like, what's the more interesting way to work on firm grip? So I went the more interesting route.
And now we get to go into a trial. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
It's great.
I love
know,
it. I love it. I got to
Learning
develop a whole
about
law
elf
system
culture
now, but that's
in
okay.
here.
Don't worry, I'll work on I'll see if I can get myself up to unlimited parry, and then we'll just fight our way out of the town.
That's all it would take. Let's do some shout outs. Aaron, what's going on with Garblag?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with Garblag the rest of the week. I don't think we've got a game tomorrow. On Thursday, Ben may be starting Dune, or he may have one more session of Fallout. I am not 100% sure. But Thursday night, Garblag North America, this I do know. Jeff and I will be going back to a galaxy far, far away. Some Star Wars Edge of Empire. We'll be diving into a short campaign of that. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't actually played FFG Star Wars in almost 3 years now. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys do a take on it. It was before Mandalorian even existed.
That's the time period that Matt has set this in is the Mandalorian time frame. So after the fall of the Empire. So should be fun.
So Jeff, what's going on here with Lollygaggers?
Yeah, man. Friday is our next stream where Aaron is going to kill all of us in various horrible, terrible ways as we're going to be playing Conan 2D20 from Modiphius. Saturday, we are going to be doing a One Ring where we get to find out whether or not Melissa survives, as we left on the cliffhanger where we were literally going to start with a healing roll, and they're out of audience dice. I burned through so many audience dice with that. I
wasted a lot of them.
Yeah, and so I'm not allowing any of them because you didn't have any, and so you don't get any at the start. So
I was gonna throw 1,000 bits at you there, but I guess maybe for your next character, Melissa.
Exactly. Like there's got to be for the next character. So yeah, that'll be Saturday. Next Monday, we're back to Holler for Savage Worlds, where Tracy Sizemore is once again going to be sitting in the shift boss seat. Continuing her Hollow Oak scenario that she's running the players through as a little interlude to our Blessed Beauty campaign. And then obviously on Tuesday, we'll be back for more Forbidden Lands. But you should also go ahead and check out the YouTube channel, Adventures in Lollygagging. Search for it over there. We have all sorts of other games from Mothership to Hunter to Vaesen in the old days when we first started, and Mutineer Zero and Alien. We got tons of free league games if that's your style. But if is that it, Steven? You got any
that's
final
all I
words
got.
of wisdom? You want to flirt with yourself some more, or do you want to act like
might
a
have
scorned
to.
lover to yourself? Or
I mean, Gunk wasn't flirting with me enough, so I had to throw it in there myself.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure there'll be some flirting on Friday with Grandmother Wisp if she makes another appearance.
If I survive, for sure, yeah. Maybe I'll try to seduce. Can I roll to seduce the giant snake that's about to eat us? Is that a thing?
You can definitely roll for it. I won't.
Don't think I'm gonna pass.
Anything is possible.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and raid. Looks like we're gonna do quests and chaos. They're playing some D&D, so go ahead and follow the raid and have a great night. Steven, thank you for running this. This is awesome. It's a lot of fun, and thanks everyone for hanging out and throwing out some bits and such. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.